And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. For today's podcast episode, we're going to be doing our review of Fast and the Furious 6. And like I said, this is the sixth installment of the Fast and the Furious franchise. This movie had a budget of 160 to 260 million dollars, and it winded up making 788.7 million dollars at the box office. But before we get into specifics as to certain scenes that we like, the plot details and stuff like that, there is something that we wanted to mention about as far as the post-credit scene for this film. We are actually going according to the actual timeline itself.
Timeline.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna let Charlie go on ahead and give his thoughts, and then I'll go on ahead and give mine.
Okay, so if anybody's seen Fast and Furious 6, we of course know the post-credit sequence. It takes place during Tokyo Drift. It's in Tokyo. It involves Han, and it involves that infamous crash. We're not going to get into that for this review. We will bring that post-credit scene up in terms of the confusing timelines. To quote Deadpool there, these timelines are just too confusing. But anyway, we'll be bringing it up during our Tokyo Drift review because it goes in order in terms of this. So, but there is, as John is going to mention, there was a huge pop for this. And honestly, once I read what this was going to happen, I lost my shit because it involves one of my favorite martial action actors being implemented into the franchise, and I was just like, I was in 100% on this guy. So whoever that is, if you see the movie, you know who this guy is. But for others, we'll bring that up in our Tokyo Drift review, which I don't know when we'll do it, but rest assured, we're not forgetting about the post-credit scene. We're just doing it in terms of the timeline to make sure nothing gets confusing.
Right. And I think we're going to try and shoot for next week sometime for our Tokyo Drift. Just have to figure out certain places to move certain things and stuff like that. But as far as it goes, we could probably do it on Monday or something like that. That's just us speculating. But, here's the thing. I remember going into Fast 6, right? And then all of a sudden that post-credit scene comes up. The crowd is just going nuts because of the fact all of a sudden now Dominic Toretto has to face somebody that is a martial artist rather than someone that has a really huge build to them, because that's what he's been dealing with. He dealt with The Rock, this other guy that we have in Furious 6, though, too, where basically they're in the same weight class. With this one, he's dealing with someone that's outside his weight class, and also, too, he's built on muscle, not on martial arts. So you're dealing with a total different beast kind of, and stuff like that when you look at the two.
I remember, because I knew of the scene before I saw Fast and Furious 6, but one of my coworkers at the theater I worked at, he was telling me, dude, he was telling me about the post-credit sequence. I was like, oh yeah, I already know. I'm ready to watch it. Because the scene is like, if you thought Fast 5's post-credit scene changed the game, this one, it definitely made everything cohesive. It was kind of like they pulled a Witcher. A lot of stuff in the past mixed in with some present, with some future, and how it all fit in to the storyline. And boy, did this one did for a movie I didn't think had any relation to the other movies. This credit scene
tied everything together.
And they did it perfectly.
Right. Exactly. So with that being said, we gave you our little bit of a prelude of what we're going to be dealing with in Furious 7 right after we do our Tokyo Drift review. So now we're going to dive right up into the movie. So basically, this actually starts off differently than any of the other Fast and the Furious movies. This actually starts off with a chase between, well, not a chase, but a race between Dominic and also to Brian. And we don't know why they're racing or whatever. I definitely love this because it has that Need for Speed kind of vibe that we used to play on for PlayStation and stuff like that, because of the different countries that we could race in. And that's what it felt like to me. It felt like a Need for Speed race. And then finally, you wind up finding out what they're racing for. And matter of fact, it's Mia who just gave birth to Brian's son.
Who's about to
give birth
just in time.
Yeah, exactly. And they made it just in the skin of their teeth and everything, so that Brian can go ahead and cut that umbilical cord.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. He doesn't he doesn't cut the umbilical cord, but
No.
you know,
No.
but,
I mean, I love the opening. I thought like it's like it kind of picks up right when Fast Five left off. It was kind of like that
from
like
Brazil, yeah.
The animation of the race between Brian and Dom. So the two of them were kind of racing, but yet Brian wins the race this time. But I think I don't know if Dom let him off on purpose, but yeah, I just love that. Like it starts off with that, and then the musical score or the score for this movie is just top notch. It's like very like it knows how to do very intense ones, especially in the big sequences, because it makes sure you feel like you're in there with them with the tensity, cars getting flipped. Like, I mean, it starts off that, and then it leads into I think probably the best intro.
Oh, I always love right. And here's the thing: it feels more like a TV show, kind of in a sense, because of the introduction part.
Yeah.
But I'll always love that song and everything, and it sucks that it's only available on iTunes where you have to buy the whole album. But I love that song. I love the different scenes that we saw throughout all the other Fast and the Furious movies and stuff like that. It gives you the tone for what we're in store for the Furious 6. And also, too, it's also about restoring Letty's memory, though, too. And we actually see a lot of that dynamic play out in those scenes with Dominic and Letty.
Yeah.
Just giving us the context of what this film is about.
I also loved it because it's kind of like a prelude, because it's kind of like a preview, like it's showing you like a recap. That's it. A recap, because we've had 6 movies, we've had many different directors, and yet Justin Lin's the only one that's actually been there for like most of the franchise. And to have a prelude and show everything that's happened up to that point to get you, okay, now you're caught up. And to do that, and you have like shows you scenes from some of those like extra like extended like end preludes, like how's Dom in the Dominican Republic, the DR. Oh, this one shows you how he meets up with Han, how he sees Letty again. It's all in this one recap. I think it's perfect because it sets up 6. We're in 6 movies, so there's a lot to forget and a lot like what are like how they all these characters meet up. So if you haven't seen a Fast and the Furious movie, you can probably pick up this one and be instantly caught up. I'm like, okay, I got what I need to know. And
that's true. I didn't think about it like that.
I thought, it was a great prelude and recap, and then boom, and then like right after it, destruction, like easily, like you're getting right into it.
And pretty much this is actually picking up with Hobbs after that, and basically what winds up happening is this microchip winds up getting stolen from them, and also 2 is dealing with Russians in this movie. And so anyways, now it's up to Hobbs to try and put together this team again to try and figure out how to actually stop this other team from stealing this ship and getting that ship back, actually. And right.
Oh, you had sorry.
No, it's okay. And then another thing though too is he goes over to Toretto's house after everything's said and done. And he goes, I have a job for you. He goes, I'm done with that. I'm retired. He goes, no, I think you want to take a look at this.
Yeah.
And he opens up the same file that we saw from Furious 5. And so happens to be, he sees Letty's picture. And at first, Dominic is kind of like taken back a little bit. He goes, well, I thought she died. And so pretty much that's when Hobbs winds up giving him some time to process everything and leaves him alone. And so he takes it over to Brian to see what he thinks. And Brian goes, I used to do the same tactic and everything as a police officer, as an FBI agent.
Yeah.
This thing could be fake for all we know. This could be just a ploy to actually get us out so we can get arrested. But if it's to declare our name, because that's also another thing, though, that Hobbs was talking about, too, was this is declare your names. And then also, too, I like how Brian said, this just doesn't feel like home.
Yeah.
There's just something that's missing. I definitely love that. Love that part.
I want to go back before he gets to Dom's area when they think like after like one of the guys gets captured from Shaw's team, and like first he meets up with Gina Corona's Riley Hicks, and him being the kind of guy The Rock is. So, and then he's like talking about and then he's like, and you see the car like hanging by the like in the building, and he's like, damn, but they captured one of them. So and then of course you hear Hobbs like there's only one team that could do this, and then it goes and then it zooms in on the bald head of the guy that they captured. And everybody's thinking it's Dom. It's not. It's just some random guy, And The Rock is like, the guy's like, I ain't telling you shit. And The Rock's like, Hobbs was like, I'm glad I was actually hoping you would say that. So he's beating the crap out of him in the Interpol office.
Right.
And then in the background, you see, is that legal? No. But are you going to go in there and tell him that? And then he just beats the crap out of him. And he goes, I had a little therapy session with him. And then, but
that poor interrogation room went through some hell. I'll tell you that.
But and then he shows up at Dom's area, and he's like, Dom's with Elena, and Dom's there working on his truck. And he's like, told you it wouldn't be hard to find you, Toretto. He goes, I wasn't hiding. And then he's like, you know what I like about this place? No extradition. And then Elena comes out like, no question, pulls out a gun. He's like, you're not gonna need that. Like, The Rock instantly knew she was there. He's like, no, actually, I'm asking him for some help. In fact, I'm telling him about a job. In fact, I think he's gonna beg me. And that's what Dom's like looking at him, and he like looks at it. And then that's what Elena was the one that kind of talked him into doing it. Because if it was any chance it was my husband, I'd take it. So, and then Toretto goes out, all right, it's got to be me. And that's when you hear The Rock feel desperate. He goes, the last stop I want to be at is in front of your door, selling goddamn Girl Scout cookies. I need your help, Dom. I need your team. And that's what leads to the other where the other team members are. You see Roman, of course, with a bunch of women in an airplane, and then you see Tej and wherever he's at, and of course you see Han and Giselle. I just gotta say, Gal Gadot is great in this movie. She is pinpoint accurate and deadly with a weapon. I mean, she's a badass in these movies. I like her so much in these movies than I do as her as Wonder Woman. It's not on her because she's doing everything she can. It's on the direction. But I mean, that's the good thing about the cool thing about these movies is Justin Lin so far has gone like great, created great female characters that can not only hold their own, but they're just badasses. Like Giselle is one of them, and she's just pinpoint like deadly with a gun. As soon as she's got you in your sights, you're dead pretty much. But and then you see, and then of course, and that's when Dom calls up everybody, and then Tej is making it rain with money. He's like, oh yeah, it's gonna make it rain from the like, hey man, you're with money, like it kind of changed you. And then you see Giselle and Han like as the police show up, and you see Giselle like have one gun, and then she steals the other gun from Han, and like she's like dual pistol it. I mean that sequence like just shows you her character is, and like she's ready to go out shooting, and then it leads to going with Brian, and Brian's with little Jack, and he's like, oh yeah, he's touching import models, and then of course Tom shows up with the other car. Oh, I got you something, Jack. What is Brian trying to get you into imports already? He's like, and then he's always like, good at Toretto.
Right. And that's when and then Mia comes out. She goes, he has plenty of time to make up his own mind.
I think he already made his choice, Tom.
And then they decide that they're going to go on ahead and do it. And of course, and then, Roman, I love his airplane though, because then all of a sudden he has to turn back around and go, sorry, ladies, I got to turn around.
Yeah. I got some buffet. I got some vouchers.
There's some buffet.
And then it says it's Roman bitches. It says that's on his plane. But it's also too, Mia's not in this movie long, but she still has that presence. Like she was the one who's like, hey, because both Dom and like Brian's like, I'm going with you. Like you said you gave this up. Yeah, we both did. And Mia's like, Brian's right. Like you you two are stronger together. You always were. Like and she says, I always feel like safer knowing that you two got each other's backs. And he goes, go get Letty, bring her home. Then it has this beautiful shot of London and you see Dom looking out the window. I mean, it's the visuals in the 4K. That's the first time I watched it in the 4K. It's great picture, and it's really
just
nice.
As good in Blu-ray though. To be honest with you, in a 4K format on TV as well.
Yeah,
and I just want to say this: the shots of London is just shot beautifully in this. It actually feels like it's like a love story kind of to London though, in a sense. If you haven't been to London, you want to go to London basically, because of the surroundings and stuff like that they were in, and stuff like that. So that's something that I really did appreciate from this. It makes you want to go sightseeing in London. another thing too is then they go into their hideout part where Dom and Roman and Tej and everybody else is over there, and then I like how Roman is trying to do the snacks and
Well,
everything.
he's trying to get money. He's like
Yeah,
trying
he's
to
trying
get
to get
snacks, and he's asking people for money. That's how you stay rich. You gotta ask other people for money. That's pretty much what he say. And even The Rock is pretty pissed off. Like, The Rock was in. And he goes, it's like, wait, who's paying for this? What, are we working for the Hulk now? And he goes, why do I smell baby oil? And then all of a sudden The Rock's like, hey, you keep talking, you're gonna be smelling an ass kicking or whatever. It's just like, and it's just he's instantly like, no bullshit. Like, and then when he's trying to describe the situation, Roman's being annoying. The Rock just pulls out his different gun and just shoots it on the house. And he just tell him to shut up. And he's like, and Roman's really scared because we're working for the Hulk now. And then, but
right,
and
then he goes, "It's free now. It's free." So he takes out like it's on the house.
Yeah, I mean, and then that's when he's just stealing all the Phantom, like, and then, but it's like the weapons, like it definitely improvement over, as what Tej said, man, that's definitely over improvement over that shithole in Rio.
Right.
But and that's when they give him the ultimatum. All right, this is Shaw. Like, and with that, and like, and then Brian's like, if you want, and like, and also if you do this, you get to make your family whole. And they show him Letty, and he's like, Brian's like, if you want to make this family whole, full pardons all the way around. And Dom's like, take it or leave it.
And so they wind up making that deal, and then after that, we wind up getting the fact that Shaw's hideout is actually found, but this is revealed to be a trap as well.
I mean, you kind of knew. Shaw's not an idiot because obviously, hence he's always one step ahead of you, and the only way you get close to Shaw is if he wants you to. Like that. That's how. Like, this is definitely a lot improvement in a villain over
the last couple of months.
The last couple
of Fast and Furious.
Yeah, it was A, because he had help on the inside, but B, he was a former soldier, so he knows everywhere you're going to come for him. So he's kind of like a Brian in a sense, but just more deadly. He knew deep down that guy got caught, and like even when he like you said, if you make a mistake, you pay for it with your life. And that's what this guy did. He made a mistake. He talked, and now he pays with his life. As he's like saying, "Well, yeah, that was the part of the eulogy." He says after Ivory died, which we'll get to. Well, Ivory made a mistake. He paid with his life. So I mean, it proves you how serious these guys are, and they're and his team is definitely no joke. I mean, this is probably the most evenly matched team that Dom's team had to face. These guys are no joke. I mean, you got Sub-Zero as one of the members of the team, the Asian guy. So
right.
if you haven't seen Mortal Kombat, he's Sub-Zero. But that Joe Talisman in this movie, he's minor, but in the scenes he's in, he makes up for it. Like, I mean, he beat the crap out of not only the guards, he beat the crap out of Roman and Han. Like, I mean, that was...
He gave them a run for his money and everything, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit, though, too, especially when we have that whole entire speed chase on the airfield, though, too. We're going to talk about that on the runway.
Oh, what, like Joe Talisman's character?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, he's about it. Like, I mean, he's definitely... Seems no joke, and so, of course, the guy who's going to get... It's a trap. I mean, even Dom's teams kind of saw it, because... While that's happening at Interpol at another location, the part is being stolen. So that's why Brian, Giselle, Han, and Roman and Tej, they all go that, and then Brian's like, Dom, what are you going to do? I'm staying here. Shaw leads to Letty. And then like that, then it leads to the two different sequences. And man, those flip cars. Those were sick.
Let's just talk about this for a minute. I definitely loved the stunts when it came down to that whole entire speed thing and everything. They got rid of it actually felt more realistic with this than they did in some of the other ones that we had. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, especially whenever they press the NOS button, you don't have no green screen stuff like we normally do or anything like that. It actually feels realistic, which is something I really do appreciate. And then also, too, as they're driving and stuff like that, too, you're dealing with some other technology. Basically, what winds up happening, I remember when Roman says this, he goes, is that hockey pucks?
Is that a hockey puck?
and it was magnets to actually discharge
chips,
the card.
Yeah. But I mean, I've said this before. As these movies progressed, I think the driving effects have gone like Fast Five's driving effects and the stunts. That was incredible. Like the whole heist sequence alone is worth the price of admission for Fast Five. This one, we're getting right into this car chase, and it's intense. Like you definitely feel like you're rooting, like you're like you don't know how this is gonna go because it's the first interaction with them. But those flip cars, that the car that both as Roman called it, the blonde Brian, the female version of Brian, the blonde chick. I hated her, and I was glad. I'm glad, I mean, because she had that look at Brian. I'm like, you knew either he was gonna get her back or Mia was gonna get her, and because you just knew that was gonna happen. It's like she's gonna die, and it's gonna be great, and it was. But those flip cars, that whole sequence was just great. And then while they get to the Interpol, you see Giselle is like they're getting gunned down, and you see Han saving her. But being how we saw in the movie, it was foreshadowing the whole movie. She survived countless times. Han saved her countless times.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a matter of time because once you see this, like once the fourth one happened, like wait, Han's still alive, or in Fast Five, Han and Giselle never was in Tokyo Drift. So everybody that saw Tokyo Drift, I didn't, but I know what happens in it. So you kind of knew Giselle wasn't there. So you kind of had a feeling all along she was going to die. And I think that's one of the most concrete deaths in this. I think she's gone and she's not coming back because there's no way they could have planted that. Her jumping high in the air while their cars are up, while she jumps backwards in the darkness. Sure, you don't see a body, but I think that was pretty safe to assume she's not making, but we'll get into that. But
right, anyway, because I have a little speculation on that though too. Because at first it took me a while. Here's the thing: it's been a long time since I saw Fast Six, to be honest with you, and I knew the events that happened with her character and stuff like that. But there's something I want to ask you because it also revolves with Shaw's character being in a coma in the 7th film. And I want to go on ahead and talk about that in a few minutes. Yeah. And stuff like that too.
But yeah, so anyway, she's going to try to take out this pale this pale cream cheese looking dude or whatever that's on his team, like the guy with the sniper, the one that's kind of like all show but doesn't do anything. How you knew it was coming down between her and him the whole movie in a sense, or whatever. I don't know. It's just he looked funny, and I was trying to find out with something clever to call him, but I can't. It hasn't come to me yet. He's just very pale. He looked like cream cheese. I don't know. Like it just, I don't know. I can't think of anything funny. But anyway, he had the sniper, and then Han saved Giselle. So. First time, okay, not really thinking of it. She's probably gonna get him back and all that stuff, and then, but okay, and then moving on. So then they have the driving sequence because they see Han and Giselle weren't driving. The only people that were driving to chase after these guys were Brian, Tej, and Roman. And once they follow him, you see the guys are like, "Oh, let's get the chips." These guys are still following us, and then Tej goes. And then Roman goes and he's screaming and they crash through another building, looked like another bank, which is fitting. Yep. And then Brian is one of the smarter ones of the driving. He knew about it. So he instantly got the chip off because Brian's like, I ain't going out like that. And then he continues chasing after him. That's when the way
he gets the chip off, that thing off of it though, is pretty smooth. He winds up taking the car and he winds up like brushing it off this little concrete wall like it's like some gum underneath your shoe, pretty much. Yeah. And it gets knocked off. And then he's just going after them. Yeah. And
he goes, "Hey, Dom, where are you at? I'm right behind you." So that's when and then you see Dom's chasing after them. And then Brian, and then Hobbs and Riley are in the back too. And like, Toretto, you better make that left turn. And then, or the whole part where Dom and the Hobbs were chasing after Shaw, and Shaw was making police cars flip. Like, I mean, this was some cool looking stunts, and it definitely it didn't the quality did not drop after Fast Five. It just picked up the intensity, and then Hobbs.
Luke Evans is great in this film, though. Luke Evans is fantastic.
Yeah, Luke Evans is great in this.
And that car that he had looked like something straight up from Mad Max Fury Road kind
Yeah,
of
that
thing.
flip deck, and then the girl had one too. Like, come on,
Right.
let's go. But anyway, and then you see the Hobbs is like, sorry, boys. After he's crashing Froome's like, sorry, boys. And then Brian's like, and then so Toretto, of course, makes the left turn because come on, telling Toretto not to like. It's like you better make that. You knew Toretto was going to make that. He's a veteran driver. He knows what he's doing. So of course he makes the left turn, and then Brian's like crashing into the truck. Like you just knew after the second one, the blonde chick is gonna like make him flip, and then she has that kind of smirk at him. I'm like, Brian's getting you, and then so, and of course, then that's when he leads to the continued chase between Hobbs and Shaw, like Hobbs versus Shaw, not Jason Statham's Shaw, and isn't Hobbs and Shaw, but Luke Evans is one. And then you see a Dodge Charger hit Dom, and Dom's like Letty, and that's when the music just intensifies. As soon as that she shows up, you don't see her face yet, but the music intensifies. But and of course,
but you can tell, right? Yeah. You don't need to actually see her, but just her driving style alone, he knows. Like he grew up with this girl. He knows her inside and out better than she knows herself. And matter of fact, he calls her out on that later on in the movie, though, too.
Yeah.
I also want to go up to the other thing, though, too. Is remember whenever they're all looking at each other's photos, stuff like that, with the files
later on,
here's the thing. I like that scene because we get the scene of the good guys looking at those files.
Yeah.
And then you also have another scene after that where you have the villains looking at their profiles.
Yeah.
And everything. So I thought that was really cool on how they foreshadowed that into it. That's one of the scenes that I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
That they did.
I still like the rest. I still like the rest of the chase, especially The Rock is like jumping out of his car onto the other car. Like, of course he gets brushed off, and then The Rock just pulls out his Magnum. Like, no, like Hobbs is like the best character in the Froll franchise. Like one of the best characters they introduced. He is such a badass, and it's just like even in his small role in Fury 7, which we'll get into, he was still a badass, just ripping off the cast. He's like, "Daddy's got to go to work." Like it's just. This how nonchalant he is, and that's why I just think it's perfect that they got The Rock to join this franchise because it definitely helped, and it helped the characters, and it just helped the intensity and some of the action sequences because The Rock's legit. Like I mean, this is his character Hobbs, and of course, Dom hits Letty's car. Dom gets out, yells Letty. Letty shoots him like nonchalant, like point blank, like. And that just took Dom aback, like just brushed him aback. But and then we get,
and then we get into their back over to their hideout and everything, and that's when Hobbs winds up telling him, "Hey, look, there's something more dangerous out there than just Shaw. There's something that they've been trying to steal, and everything, and it happens to be this microchip that could actually cause pretty much havoc on the rest of the world." And so that's when Dom's crew winds up deciding to go ahead and try and prevent them from stealing that microchip.
Yeah.
Basically, it shuts down all power and then to sell to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
And that's what the microchip does.
Yeah.
Then Shaw's investigation into the opposing crew. That's what I was telling you about too, about the crew when he starts investigating them and stuff like that. And I liked how the comedic part of it with Tyrese, with Roman, I definitely like that part where he goes, "Hey, Brian, when did you get this photo shoot done? This looks good. This Tej, this is actually looks like Tej, but he has a beanie on."
Yeah, like, hey, Brian, we always knew you were the prettiest blonde, and you see Brian just flip him off, but it just makes more sense now because now you think now since you've seen this before, you're always wondering how the heck did Shaw's crew get those whole profiles of all those people. It's because he had the person on the inside was able to give him those files because those files are the ones that Hobbs had with diplomatic security services, the DSS. So it makes more sense now. Like I was like, I just when I watched it last night, I was like, that makes sense. I was always because I didn't pick up on they had these very vivid profiles of them. because with Riley Hicks, she was top of her class. She has government influences. She's a government agent. Of course, she has access to these files. So it makes more sense now because she was the one that was the girlfriend for Shaw for Shaw anyway. So I was always wondering how the heck did they get those files? Because the first time you're watching it, you just figure, okay, they got it. Now, like the more you watch it, the more it makes sense that they had these files because they had a government agent on the inside. So that because like these profiles were vivid, like these were profiles from like these are either criminal files, whatever, or just government info because because like Shaw will not have gotten an image of Letty with Dom in his file unless it was government issued.
And what's in that file, of course, it shows the crew of Dom and everything, though, too. But also, too, it makes Shaw question Letty now because of the fact that there's a picture of Letty and Dominic together. Yeah. And it makes him not trust her. And then even the crew is also questioning her, though, too, with her own motives. Is she working for Dom? What's going on? And then
I love that line. I love the line where the big tough guy is like, hey, guys, she was with the enemy. And then Letty's like, you just know she's just like as what Braga says, that's one tough bitch. Like, I mean, Letty's no joke. And I'm pretty sure she would have made him the team. I'm not saying the other word, but she would have beat his butt. She would have kicked his ass easily. The tall guy, because the taller they are, the easier they fall. Because Letty will take him out. Because I think she would do it. And that I just love that line. It just shows you her character is she doesn't take shit from anybody.
Exactly. And you know what though? That Russian dude kind of reminds me of Vince in a way where Vince knew that Brian was a cop.
Yeah.
Where he's reading all the emotions. And this is exactly what I feel like with the Russian dude. I feel like with the Russian dude and everything, he's reading her the same way that Vince read Brian. And she goes, look, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know. I don't have any recollection of what's happening or anything like that. I have no idea what's going on. And then Shaw winds up believes her and everything.
Right now,
and right now, he doesn't have any doubts in his head and everything at that point because she actually proved the fact that she's telling the truth.
Yeah.
And so he leaves her alone.
Yeah.
And then after that, we wind up seeing the fact that, we wind up seeing once again, the difference between Dom's crew and also too with Shaw's crew.
Yeah.
And everything. And this is also too, I think, wasn't this when we find out that there was actually somebody else that was connected into this
later on? This is before, like, so after they seeing, like, they're doing the, like, Roman's doing the profile images and like, oh, you're always the prettiest blonde. Oh, of course, this guy, he's handsome. Of course, he's me. Like Hobbs, like, God damn, it's such a mess out there. And he's like, all right. So then they're letting Toretto's crew like nameplate, like what, just going over the details. And John's like, all right, you met him. This how knowledgeable this team is. And then you see, the facial reactions of Riley and Hobbs is like kind of like shaking, like, yep, I got the right crew because. Yeah, and then just how factual these guys were. It's like, okay, so that's when they break up. They have Giselle, Han, Roman, like the three of them are going to find out the type of car to find out who the dealer is because it'd be very small dealers in London because these are illegal mods. And then of course Rye was like, I'm going with, and then Hobbs is telling like it's like Tej. Go get some cars. Make sure they're not only are they unhackable, but make sure they're fast. And then of course Hobbs is like, I got the DSS that. I'm like, and Tej is like, guys, I got this. But before that, I want to meet like the kind of like the moment between Brian and Dom. Like these two guys, like they're awesome. And you in here, Brian's telling Mia, yeah, it's definitely Letty. He said point blank. Like pretty much saw her that, and he's like, she's alive, and then Mia is like looking the positive, she's still alive. So and then of course the guy kind of like give a kiss to Jack for me, and that's when Mia, like, or not Mia, Brian and Dom are talking to each other about She looked right at me, Brian. You don't turn your back on family. And I think that was the one line, but it was like his delivery of it. It's not meant to be funny. It's a legit one. After he takes the bullet out, I mean, Dom's a tough guy. I mean, that's why him and Letty are definitely made together. They're Alpha and Mrs. Alpha. Oh, you're muted still.
We're gonna get into that part though too, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because we're gonna go into their scars and stuff. Because
Oh, yeah.
they actually go in, they actually do that where they talk about their past lives and stuff like that. But then we wind up seeing Brian. He just while the crew is off doing their thing, Brian finds out that there was actually another person that was linked to this, which was part of the fifth film.
No, that's later.
No,
yeah, sorry. Brian's looking for the bullet. They see who bought the bullet, and that's why it was a very small pawn shop. They don't find out it's Braga until, Brian doesn't find out until it's Braga from the fourth one until Giselle, Roman, Han, and Riley confront the hydraulics guy, the guy with the shooting harpoon gun.
Oh yeah, okay. Now I remember. That's right.
Yeah. It's because Giselle's the one that finds him because he gets shot and he goes, "Stay with me. Tell me who's doing this, and I will make sure Shaw gets. I'll get revenge on Shaw for you." And he's like telling her to take the phone out of his pocket, and he yells Braga, and then he dies. So
and then right, then also too, we also deal with Tej at the auction.
I love that sequence.
Me too. Basically, you have Dwayne the Rock Johnson there. He's just in like normal everyday clothes, and then of course you have Tej there, and the butler just comes out of nowhere. He goes, "Sir, I think that you need to leave. This is not for you." And I'm just
Are you part of the dinner service? No.
Right. Are you part of the dinner service? He's like, no. Well, I think you need to go ahead and make your exit because there's no way that you can afford any of the cars here.
And that's like $50,000 US dollars, and they're looking down like. I did like the conversation too. It's like talking about like it's like the Rock's like reading like the guy can read the brochure. The thing about cars, you got to customize them, and then the Rock's like sounds like a marriage. Yeah, but in the end, they don't take half your shit. And that's when the butler shows up and he goes, functional. Like you have no honeys, no that. And he's very pretentious and
swagger.
And there's swagger. So he leaves. We can finish our champagne. And Tej is like, that guy's got to get taught a lesson. He goes, the Rock's like, you ain't thinking about stealing any of these cars, Parker. And Tej is like, I got this. What do you mean by got this? Well, we find out a little bit later after that
shootout.
Yeah, that was a great
about Braga
sequence. But I just like the little banner between Han and Roman while like Giselle's like telling him, "Oh, you guys are forgetting one thing. He's a man." And then Roman's like, "He's a man." I'm kind of offended by that. And it's like, come on, man, she's doing her job. Like, and Roman's like, "Oh, you love her," and all that stuff. And like, and then Tej is running his mouth, like not Tej, Roman's running his mouth to the point about, you gotta have something big and to order to compensate that. And that's when like Han makes it kind of like a dick joke. He goes, "Is that why all your girlfriends wear bling?"
I love that. I remember the movie theater at the time was just laughing their asses off at that one part, that one line, and it's such a great line how he delivers it. Though, to be honest with you,
Han doesn't take no shit. Can he fight? He's working on it. He can shoot, but he can absolutely deliver those zingers. So then Riley and Giselle are talking to the guys like, "Oh, we want you to get information for us." Because we're being nice, and then Riley puts on this arm breaker. My friend here can give you a world of pain. You never like this. The way Giselle just delivers that line, it's just hysterical. Like and then, of course, the guy known Shaw, he turns his phone on so he knows where they're at, and then the guy, so he's talking just delaying it, and that's when Shaw's crew with Letty, Ivory, and the Joe Talisman character. I forgot who his name is in the movie. I forgot, but all I know is he's Sub-Zero. Anyway, they shoot the guy. He goes, "Sorry, girls," because he made a mistake. He talked, and you make a mistake, you pay for life, and that's gonna come up later. But this whole action sequence was awesome.
Yeah, I definitely love the action sequence within this scene, though, to be honest with you. It was definitely one of those scenes that I can say that looks very realistic,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that I really loved about it. What about
Yeah.
you, though? What stood out for you, though?
Just the whole sequence, just like the shooting like the shooting, like Riley, like this is the first time you see Riley, like she's shooting and then she's hiding like at this. It seems like this this smoothed well. Well, and then you see Han and Roman are chasing after Sub-Zero, and then that's when Giselle delivers that. So I'm sorry, I'm going to call him Sub-Zero. That's what I know him for. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing because he was badass. Anyway, they're chasing him, and then that's when you have Riley and Letty have the epic fight scene in the metro subway. But before I get to that, that's when Giselle, being the kind person she is, she's like, "Hey, tell me who did this," and that's when Braga gets entrance, and that's when her face just drops. Like, oh shit! Again, we're going full circle here, tying everything together with Braga because we thought he was done. Nope. And then of course she hears the motorcycle of Irie go off, and this is when I mentioned earlier her pinpoint accuracy, pulls the gun easily, like gets the guy an instant kill shot, like nope, like that's the way she's like, and then the way she just cocks her gun ready to go, like badass. Like I mean, like that's it. Like just the way killing Irie in one shot, like you just knows Dom's got a good person with weapons and utilities. Like, yeah, I mean that shot was this pinpoint accuracy by her. It was just awesome.
Most definitely. And then after all that happens, we wind up getting back over to where about Tej and everything too. Basically, what winds up happening is he bought all those cars at the auction.
Yes.
And then not only did he get that, but he also got the butler that was there, and he's like, "Watch this."
Embarrassed him.
Right. He's like, he looks at the rug. He goes, "Watch this." He goes, "Yeah, my friend here, he wants that shirt." He goes, "I don't. No offense, sir. I don't think that's gonna fit him." He goes, "No, he wants it."
Oh, the Rock's like, "It'll fit.
It'll fit. It'll fit. It will fit.
Pants too." And then the Rock's getting in on it too, like pants too. Oh, I like that watch. But after he buys the cars, like I wanted to cover the fight sequence between Letty and Gina Carano. This was an awesome fight sequence. It was like,
I love the fight sequence with that.
Yeah, like you had Dom and The Rock in the first one, or in Fast 5. Now it's Letty's time to kick some ass, and that was a great fight scene. It was legit, and again, the musical score in the background was heightening the sequence of the fight. Even Gina Carano was getting Letty into her famous like arm bar that she does she did in the UFC, but that was a legit fight. That was awesome, and it shows Letty is a badass, and that's why they keep giving her all these like these single 1-on-1 or 1-on-3 fight sequences because she can hold her own. And then once Letty got her like the handcuffs on and she was using those as a weapon, I mean, the fight choreography was awesome in this.
I like the action sequence between her and Letty, to be honest with you. And this is my first introduction into Gina Carano's acting career and everything too. And, you know, I definitely love the stunt work with this. The fight choreography is just spot on. And then, you know, when Letty does the sweep kick, and then when she tries to go ahead and kick her in the chins to make her fall, and then trying to think of different strategies to actually hurt her, Gina comes back with something else and just lays into her. And it's just an awesome scene altogether. Yeah. And like you mentioned, though, whenever it comes down to Justin Lin, he gives these women a chance to actually have a spotlight on them to where it focuses on the fight, but it's a fight for a purpose and not just for a fight for the sake of being a fight.
Yeah.
And everything, which is something I appreciate.
Yeah. And then the other fight that happened was Joe Talisman's or Sub-Zero taking on like him like Han and Roman finally caught up to him after Sub-Zero like completely beat up a bunch of cops. Then it was Han and Roman. The two of them were like hitting each like slapping. Like, you go first. Or after they're getting their ass kicked, they're like, you go. No, you go. So they're both trying to figure out who's going to go in. And then when that was just the manhandling. Like Sub-Zero took two of those guys out. And that's why I think the two of them need to prove their fighting skills a little bit. But then again, you're dealing with an international action star. And the scene when Han's being held up and Roman's like he not sucker punches Han by accident. I thought that sequence was in that serious fight sequence. It was kind of funny. He's like, just the whoops, I sucker punched Han. But yeah, it was, and of course Sub-Zero wins that fight. And he goes, nobody needs to know about this. After Roman gets kicked through a bunch of glass.
That was that. To be honest with you, I definitely loved that fight sequence with Roman and everything, and then him getting knocked through glass. That was good. And then after everything calms down and settles down, it goes right back over to where we once again have them talking, and they wind up finding out that, we wind up seeing that Braga is actually the one that but is behind everything.
Yeah. And everybody's and then Dom and Brian's faces just drop. We got something big, Braga, and then Brian's like, "What are you talking about?" And then it's like, and then Roman's like, "Of course, who's Braga?" Dom and Brian and I had a run in with him, and I was like, my former boss. And he goes, "How do you guys know all this?" He's sitting Braga's in prison in Los Angeles, and he's like, "How do you know that?" And Dom's like, "Brian put him there." And that's what leads, like, Brian's like, "All right, this is the lead we need. I'm gonna go in and pay him a visit." And everybody's like, "Brian, you're wanted. You ain't getting back." And then Brian's like, "Let me handle that." And then and he's telling Dom, "This is on me. Let me make it right." And Dom's like, "Be careful."
And then of course this is where Brian winds up being courted in with FBI, and then the other FBI agent that used to be his partner. Yeah, Spaziak, who's actually a douchebag in the other film. And everything is escorting him. Yeah, he's escorting him into the prison, and he's also telling him, "Hey, look, Brian, you're only up to 24 hours, and they're also being held in the penitentiary part of the prison, and you actually have to figure out a way to get there." So all of a sudden, he decides to go on ahead and break his nose again. They get into a scruffle and breaks his nose.
I thought that was hilarious.
It definitely was. Here's the thing. Now they seemed like a mutual respect for each other in a sense. But before, they just really couldn't stand each other. They were always clashing.
Yeah.
But so now he has 24 hours. Otherwise, he's going to be still in the prison and everything, and they're going to ID him and everything with his fingerprints, because they also fingerprint him and all that stuff, but it's actually a bogus ID. So now he's up to 24 hours to do that. And so as he's laying there, you hear the doors open. Yeah. And it's actually Braga and his men. He goes, "Hey, Brian." He goes, "How does it feel to be on the other side of the door?" He goes, "Don't worry. We're going to keep you company." You think that you're
on those lines? Yeah.
I'm going for verbatim. I'm not quoting.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I mean, I got what you meant. And he's like Rio de Janeiro. Man, right. Brian, you seem to have a lot of fun being on the other side of the wanted poster. And Brian's like, what, you didn't think these guys were going to remember you? And then that's when you get to see the flashback of how Letty survived. And he goes, well, especially, the FBI, CIA, they're all under my books, and they're working with Shaw as well. So especially when they find out, there's a undercover cop or undercover person that's in my crew, and then he shows the sequence, the hesitation by Phoenix to shoot her and he shoots the car. And then Brian's like, she survived, and that's when you hear Braga go, "Man, that's one tough bitch," and that's exactly who Letty is. And he's like, and the thing is, Shaw went to go finish the job, and he was a perfect girl, no memory. She had no memory.
Right, and that's when he winds up finding out that Letty got taken in whenever she had amnesia and everything, and that's all she knows now is Shaw and around that crew. And so of course Brian has to fight his way out of prison and everything with Braga. He winds up getting out in time. Then of course douchebag agent that he didn't like in the last film, I assume that he escorts him back or whatever. But
he brings him back. But the one line I did like before they get in the car, and then Brian, and then like Stasiak's saying that, Brian's like, "Well, Stasiak, the saying is you got to put on the big boy panties and then like swim over the deep water if you want the big paying jobs." And like, you're an asshole, man. It's like, I really did miss you, man. But yeah, no, Stasiak drives him back to the airplane. But this is after Like this is after this event that driving him back happened after Hobbs and Riley, they went up to the CCTV pram and they find out that all the cameras have been down, and that's when he gives him like the big brute, like a really, really very hard handshake where it almost breaks his hand. He's like, well, was like, well, can you show Captain America here our TV? We are under maintenance. And he's like, oh, isn't that gosh darn coincidence?
Good convenient, yeah.
And convenient. And he's shaking his hand so hard, and then he's like, well, it'd be kind of ridiculous if one of you guys was actually working with Shaw, and that. And I'm like, yeah, that's just ridiculous. And you guys, well, maybe you need to cut back on any maintenance and give us a live feed. And he's like, well, thank you for your time. And he lets go, and the guy's like grasping his hand, like it definitely was broken. The Rock broke his hand.
And also, too, this is where we've realized, too, that somebody inside the security room is actually working for Shaw.
Yeah.
And everything. And next thing you know it, you have the security footage in their hideout and everything.
Yeah.
So now they're able to see everything that the security cameras are seeing and where they can actually locate Shaw if they needed to locate Shaw.
Yeah.
And then also, too, if they want to locate Letty.
Yeah.
But then this is also where, this is the part that I really like, is the part where now we're dealing the part where Dominic is actually going to be trying to chase Letty and everything.
Before we get into that, I want to lead in what leads up to that. Okay. It's the kind of the funny sequence while they're in the hideout. Dom's tuning up the car, and Han tells him about a street race because that's where Letty's going, the street race. And then that's when Roman was dealing with the harpoon gun and almost takes Dom's head off. Well, it's the reason I brought that up is because in it, like I think I don't know if it's in the original version. I watched the extended one. I watched the theatrical. It's not much. All Dom mentions is an orange car, an orange SS kind of a car, which is the same kind of car Han drove in Tokyo Drift. So that orangey black kind of thing, that Han's car, like Han's like, yeah, it's a pretty cool car. Like he mentions that it's just like the subtle line about the orange car. I had to mention it because it's kind of a reference to Tokyo Drift. So this whole movie, Han kept mentioning Tokyo, 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 the orange car, Tokyo, all that kinds of stuff. And that's when Roman shoots the harpoon, and they just all look at him, and you see Giselle look over like, what the hell?
And then also too, you see Tej and Roman going like this, pointing to each other.
Yeah. After Tej was telling him, like, don't play with that. I'm like, dude, man, that's as big as your forehead or whatever. They just made the funny reference. But that leads Dom to, like, go to the street race. And Letty's there because, like, Shaw has a moment with her after Letty tells Shaw, Ivory's gone. He's dead. And then Shaw's like, Ivory made a mistake. If you make a mistake, you pay for life. And that's when Letty's like, kind of seeing through the bullshit. It's like, well, it's a great eulogy, Shaw. You're going to say that when all of us go out? And that's when with Shaw's having that moment. Like, I'm kind of like, Shaw's trying to hit on Letty, and Letty's like, I'm going to go get some air. And that's what leads to her to the street race.
Right. And I like this scene, though, to be honest with you. It sets the tone for the different types of racing that they do in England. Yeah. And that's something that I really enjoyed was the fact that we get a different type of racing style than what we're normally used to in the U.S. So that's something that I really liked. I mean, that's also why, and that's also why I like Tokyo Drift with the drifting, because we also got a different type of playing field with that. But with this, we get a little bit more of a different playing field whenever you look at this. And then, Letty goes, well, I hope that you can keep up pretty much and stuff like that. But
ride or die.
Right, ride or die. He also returns the cross that he gave her and everything too. After, but of course that's after he winds up winning the race. He goes, "Oh, you always had your foot on the brake sometimes." He goes, "Yeah, that's just for people so that way they can slow down, so that way I can actually win." Yeah,
it was about that. But that race was cool. It just shows how good Dom is at driving. Like he very rarely loses. The only time he loses is if he lets you win. And Dom driving that car backwards, and then Letty's like, this guy's crazy. But it's like, yeah, it's because it's Dom. Dom knows how to drive a car.
Another thing I liked about that that racing sequence was I'm going into that and then spinning around where you see the not the trolley but the other the bus
Yeah,
that they have, and going around that and then speeding off into another little small alley and then them
yeah,
hydroplaning and jumping over stuff. This was a lot of fun. This was probably the funnest one that I've been on with this whole entire movie, though, to be honest with you. This
hmm
was this fun stunt, the fun racing scene. And then finally, Letty winds up losing the race, of course. And then that's when Dom starts talking to her. He goes, "Yeah, let's talk about scars." And he starts explaining what each scar means and stuff like
yeah.
that. She goes, Just because you know a lot about me doesn't mean that you actually know me." And he goes, "Trust me, I know more than you think you know.
I know everything about you.
I know everything about you."
Yeah,
And so once he winds up breaking everything down and he talks about his past, about how this one person was showing off, and he said that you could have lost an arm, but you didn't. You were lucky that day. He goes, "Then let me guess. You were the one that saved me."
save me.
No, I was the kid that was showing off.
Yeah. And of course, it wouldn't be like so. Letty leaves and Shaw's suddenly there because of course, and that's when you had the big kind of like battling of words, and Dom's not buying any of his bullshit. He talks about my brother. So it kind of like they kept referencing Shaw kept referencing his big brother, that like the whole movie. So you kind of had a feeling that they're kind of going towards that next. They kept mentioning my brother is like, oh man, you need to always have a set of rules, and he goes that, and I'm like and that's when Dom mentions family again, and of course it's like, well, that's the way we got to go out, and then like Shaw's like, man, like so he's got his guy with a sniper like at him at Dom, and Dom's like, that's the way we got to go out, and then he's talking about you working with the big two government hack, and then of course you see Hobbs is there. He's like, come on, you son of a bitch. And you see them, and then it has the funny line between Hobbs and Toretto. He goes, you're lucky I put that tracker in your car, Toretto." And Toretto's like, "This tracker," and the two of them kind of laugh at each other. That's kind of the two of them are kind of like not butting heads anymore. They're kind of becoming like allies and potentially friends, which I really like that. He's like, "Well, Toretto, I'm closer to that. I hope you're closer to where you're at." So I thought that was a really cool scene between the two of them.
So, so let's see here.
Now we're getting back to like Brian, like I think like Shaw, they find Hobbs and Riley find Shaw's base, and they show up. It's empty, and Riley was like, "Oh, they're gone," and Hobbs like, "No, there's always something." And of course, how good attention to detail Hobbs is, so they find something, and that's what leads to him calling Tej, and then the name that Tej had on his phone was Samoan Thor. I thought that was hysterical.
And then after that, we wind up finding out, though, too, that there's going to be, they wind up boarding and moving. Basically, what winds up happening is they wind up arresting Shaw.
Not Shaw. Not yet. It's they arrest the white guy, the guy that kind of looked pale. Because Shaw wanted them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. He was just a decoy, pretty much, that they were using. And so, anyways, that's whenever they wind up going over to
Spain.
Over to Spain and everything, and then they wind up tracking the pale guy, and then of course that's when Shaw shows up.
Yeah,
and he goes, all this time. Go on ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go on ahead. Go.
Okay. So before they get to that, going to Spain, Brian shows back up. So Brian's back with them. They're traveling to Spain, and that's when Brian's like, they found the guy on purpose. That means Shaw wants them there. So that's why they're like, so Shaw's crew is trying to take this convoy, which The Rock thought they're going to take the base. So that's like, so Shaw's trying to take this, like, to take the compound, which has the chip, and that leads to this next sequence. Go ahead.
All right. So, and then what winds up happening is this. So Shaw winds up going in there. He goes, there's only one little thing. There's only one little thing I want to mention here. And he said, you've been playing into my game all this time. You didn't even know that you were being played until now. And so he winds up taking Gina Carano away from them because now she works for him. Now
Yeah.
you realize how she got how they got the files on the other crew.
Yeah.
You also know how that they've been one step ahead of them the whole entire time, and that whole entire plot twist was really good.
Yeah. But I want to get to the action sequence. How she gets caught. That's the sequence with the tank. That's the sequence where they're driving the tank. That was a great sequence.
Yeah, that was a great sequence, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And oh yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on ahead.
Because that's what leads to Dom saving Letty with the whole like they sent Letty up to take the anchor out of the car, which they almost ran over Tej, not Tej, Roman, and that's where you see Letty have to go up in the car. They turn the tank. Dom crashes his car, and that's where the kind of the CGI where he saves Letty like Superman style. That's what's kind of sets that part up too. But we can move on. You want to move on, so we'll do that.
No, I don't want to move on or anything, or anything like that. Basically, that's everything that I don't know. Keep on going.
So after that big action sequence, which was really cool about the stunts and stuff. As John mentioned earlier, Riley was the bad girl. Like she was the one that was the inside job that worked with that, and they captured. Shaw was like, "I hit your family," so he captured Mia. So Mia's captured, and they pretty much like said like, "You need to let us go, or I'm killing Mia," and they say no. So they let Shaw and his crew leave, while Toretto and them chase them, and this leads to the big final battle sequence.
Right, but also too the tank. I know that we didn't capture the tank scene the way that we wanted to, so let's just go back for that for a minute. I liked how they actually had to use Roman's car as an anchor to go ahead and try and save, to basically slow the tank down, and then also too you have that that whole entire action sequence though too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a great action sequence. It's like just shows Dom's like, we'll stick to the plan, and like how Roman barely survived a tank shot because he was so close, and Roman backs up on purpose, and he gets and now the tank's eating his like it's pretty much destroying his car, which I thought that was sequence. There's a tank on my ass.
And yeah, and then after that, what winds up happening is this. You see the aftermath of the tank actually rolling over Roman's car if he would have actually been in it. Yeah. And then I like how Toretto turns around and says to Brian, because Brian is right behind him, goes, let's use that as an anchor. So he goes on ahead, bangs into the car. And of course, it's also, isn't it hooked up to something though too? I forgot.
It's hooked up to the rim of the tank.
Yeah, it's hooked up to the rim of the tank and everything. And then that's when they decide to use it as an anchor. Then, of course, they get ready to go ahead, and that's whenever the tank is getting ready to flip. But then before that, Letty winds up jumping, like you said before, she winds up jumping off the tank. Dominic goes on ahead. Superman saves her.
Yes, lands on a car.
Lands on a car. Acts like nothing even happened.
Yeah.
And then after that, it goes in the next scene.
Yeah, and it goes in that scene we just discussed, how like Riley was in on it, and Hobbs is like letting Shaw and them go, and he goes amnesty and pardon go out the window, and then Dom's like they weren't the words when we were born, some weird phrasing. So of course Dom and his team were gonna go after them, especially when Riley turns evil and The Rock is like taken aback by it, and he's like, damn, I can't pick partners.
And then, of course, we get this whole entire scene now where basically The Rock is just explaining to them, look, if we go at, because here's the thing, they arrest Shaw and everything, and now they have to release Shaw because of the fact that they're having Mia held hostage.
Yeah.
And that's just mind-blowing to me, to have that kind of leverage, to have that kind of thing over them. And then the look on Dom's face, he's just pissed off.
Yeah.
And I like how Dwayne is just looking at Dominic. And Hobbs is just looking at him and goes, I'm just letting you know, if we let him go now, and everything. There's no parting. There's nothing. You guys are going to be fugitives. Uncuff him. And also, too, this is also where he really pisses him off even more, where Luke Evans' character, Shaw, pisses him off because of the fact he goes, I know how much you care. Your whole entire motto is family.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. That's what makes you predictable.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is you're going to let me go, and you're not going to fall behind me. And if you do, I'm going to kill Mia. And that was like the biggest mistake. All of a sudden, Dominic just turns into like OP Dominic, overpowered Dominic.
Yeah.
And everything.
And it was funny that how they think they're gonna, like, from the air, they're gonna, what about Teresa? So we don't need her anymore. And then Tej is already on the computer to stop to turn off the cell tower signal so they can't get one. Because you knew Dom's team was gonna go there, and Letty's like, I'm coming with you. So you kind of know Letty's kind of turning the corner. Like she's always, because the cops tried to arrest her, and she goes, no, not her. She was always been one of us. And then that leads to the big sequence of the plane, which I thought was a really, really cool sequence.
Now, here's the thing. Everybody always jokes around about how long that airstrip is and stuff like that. To me, that sequence alone didn't even take me out of the film or anything like that. It reminds me of the 90s kind of action sequences that we normally get in movies, to be honest with you. And I liked how Roman goes, what, they can't go anywhere. There's nowhere that they can go. All of a sudden, this jumbo-sized, military-based airplane comes over them. And then Tej goes, did you have to really open your big-ass mouth? Did you really have to do that? And so then you see this giant jet come down, and then, of course, the cargo air bay is actually opened. Yeah. And then that's when they go in. That's whenever you see Luke Evans' character Shaw go into the cargo area, and then next thing you know, it's a race for the next person to go in.
Yeah,
and everything. And then, of course, you wind up seeing I love the camera angles, to be honest with you.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I did too.
I like the camera angles because it gives you a shot of each individual team member doing what they're supposed to be doing on this mission and everything. It's not like a one-shot kind of feel to it. It actually feels. You feel the energy from the crew and what they're trying to do and they're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah. And I love the fight sequence in the plane too, because you knew Toretto and them they're gonna show up right before they did something to Mia, and then you see Brian trying to take on Luke Evans and Dom taking on the big brute, and then of course Letty taking on Riley again. Like you just knew that she was ready for round two. And then it shows the sequence where Brian finally took out the blonde lookalike by tricking her, by driving the car over backwards while she crashed. And that was really satisfying seeing Brian take her out for revenge.
Exactly. And that part was actually satisfying. And then, of course, then we see Brian going back into the cargo area, trying to go back into the race for the cargo area and everything too. And then as that's going on, you see another scene basically where you see Gal Gadot's character. You also see Han trying to slow the airplane down, trying to get into the engine, trying to shoot the harpoon into the engine. Yeah. And then winds up missing. And next thing you know, that Jeep and everything is actually being carried by the plane, slowing the plane down a little bit, causing extra weight onto the plane.
And they're on the air.
Right, and they're also in the air bouncing up and down because it's actually in the point of takeoff, but actually not at the point of takeoff at the same time. So it's actually just bouncing up and down. Yeah,
and then of course the palest dude, the pale assassin or the guy at the sniper take Giselle out, and Giselle is fighting, and then she slips. Han holds on to her, and Han's like, "I got you." But Giselle sees the pale guy coming from behind, and that's when she takes out her gun, shoots him, and then she's gone. And that's what leads Han to go into pissed off mode. I'm going to throw you into an engine mode.
Right. He just lifts him up and shoves him into
pissed.
Yes.
Pissed.
And here's my speculation, though. Okay, Shaw's alive and everything in Fast 7. He's in a coma. And he got thrown 10 times harder than what Gazelle did. Now, isn't there... we always go against logic whenever it goes down to the Fast and the Furious movies. But for some reason, in the back of my mind, is this: she has to be in a coma. Something she, to me, if Luke Evans' character's in a coma, wouldn't that also make sense for Gazelle to be in a coma too?
I don't know. I think she was more in the air than he was, because I think the ramp was down. They weren't in the air, and like I think because the engines had crashed, the engines had crashed, so the plane's definitely on the ground, and he got flown out like that. I think I don't know. I think that maybe the physics wise, he's in a coma maybe because he got hit hard. Then again, he wasn't really that high up because Giselle, she fell backwards from high up. So, and I think that head, I don't know, we didn't see a body, we just saw a lot of darkness. They were higher up than that was. But then again, the whole story. I mean, the reason why Justin Lin got back is I think a lot of stuff was wonky with the eighth one of how like Shaw's brother. Then we don't know the time frame of how long. Furious 7 was maybe 2 years, but in terms of the storyline, I don't know how many years. So I don't know. It's an interesting theory. I don't know. I mean, I don't think we're going to see Giselle. I say we see Shaw before we see Giselle, but
true. So another thing though too is I love the action sequences when you look at the fight scenes with the big Russian dude and Luke Evans, and then also Brian is trying to fight Luke and everything too. Yeah. He's actually the same body size and everything else as Luke, but he just can't take him down. He's doing the martial arts thing, and stuff like that. And then we wind up seeing this other thing play out basically where you have The Rock now going after the big Russian guy, and then Dominic's having a time with him too. So Dominic goes on ahead, lifts him up by his legs. Then all of a sudden you see The Rock do a Superman punch.
Yeah, clothesline punch, whatever. Yeah. Knocks him on the ground.
Which was great, to be honest with you. Because Dominic does it too, but the way The Rock actually delivers that punch is just, just awesome, to be honest with you.
It was a clothesline. It was really cool. It was a tag team moment. It's like it's like a wrestling style match, but it was just more. But instead of like for the win, it's for your lives, and it's just the Dom and Hobbs. They're really good. Brian and Dom are like the greatest team, but Hobbs and Dom are really going too. So the two of them, they can fight with. They can team up and take out anybody really. And I thought that was a cool sequence. But I did like the one-liner when Riley thinks she has the upper hand on Letty, and then Letty pulls open the door, and then Hobbs chucks over the harpoon gun to Letty, and what he's like, wrong team, bitch, and she just shoots her out the window. I thought that was hysterical, and to see her scream, that was a nice like the Hobbs moment, like, hey, Letty's on the right team, you weren't, you're gonna get shot.
Exactly. And then after that winds up happening, we wind up don't they wind up back at the barbecue and everything else too after that? Or
after Dom survives this epic explosion.
Yeah, he actually comes out through the front of the plane. Yeah. Well, first in the car, and then all of a sudden you think he's about to get away, like in every action movie. Yeah. And then at that time, that's when the plane actually explodes, causing the car to ricochet and hydroplane, and then it flips, and then you're wondering if Dominic even survived it. Then all of a sudden you see out of the shadows, going through out of the flames, there's Dominic Toretto coming out.
He's gonna survive.
Right? And then you could see Han. He's like, is there anything for me back there?
Is Giselle alive? And then and you see Mia's like, where's Giselle? Where's Giselle? And she's gone. And Han's really you feel for Han because it's like he found somebody that he liked and he cared for, and they were finally going to set it on and go to Tokyo. We've always been talking about Tokyo, so let's go to Tokyo. And that's when Han's like, we'll settle in Tokyo. And then of course Dom comes with the chip. He goes, so this is worth a lot of money. He's like, and then Dom's like 1327, and Hobbs is like looking at him, and that's when they have the barbecue, and that's when Han's like, yeah, I got to do it. I got to go back to Tokyo.
And then, of course, Roman winds up grabbing the first thing he sees, which is one of those, one of the chips, tortilla chips. He goes, these are so good. And then all of a sudden, you see Brian. He goes, he's got to say grace.
Yeah.
Next thing then after that, you wind up hearing him pray to the car gods and everything, just like Jesse did in the very first movie.
Yeah.
And then that's actually the end of the film, supposedly, but there's a post-credits scene, but we already touched on that. But this film is very fun, very entertaining. I definitely love the stunts. The fight choreographies were really good. Yeah, Fast 6 is definitely a good time.
It's right up there with me for Fast 5 is one of my favorites. It's right up there. I think my rating is an 8.9. I gave Fast 5 a 9 out of 10. So it's right up there. It's a really good movie. It's entertaining. It's got great action sequences. It's got funny moments. It's definitely up there with one of the best. I think I would also have Furious 7 up there and one of the best too, because Furious 7, for what it did and all the challenges it had to do, it definitely delivered. But yeah, so it's like and then that one isn't by Justin Lin, but I like, and this supposedly was Justin Lin's last one until he did Fast 9, but yeah, it was a great setup and it was a great way to tie everything together. It's an entertaining movie.
And then let's see here. Another thing too is I remember going to see Fast 5 and I remember giving that like a 5 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the save, because of the action sequences, the choreography, the plot lines were really good for me. It was a lot of fun, a lot of entertaining stuff. Fast 6, I want to say I'd maybe gave it like a 4.8, maybe a 4.5 at the time. But I'm not going to give it a rating now or anything like that. I'm just enjoying it for what it is because of the time that has passed and stuff. So it is definitely a good time. If you haven't seen Furious 6, you can definitely go on ahead, check this out for yourself and everything, and just turn your brain off for 2.5 hours and enjoy a movie that don't even make any sense. So, so anyways, guys, so Sunday, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific Time, Sunday night, we are going to be reviewing Space Jam 2 Legacy. So we're going to be reviewing that on Sunday. Monday, I might have some stuff planned out. We just have to wait and see. Because Tuesday, I actually have ACS Universe coming on. And we're actually doing a Reminiscing with John episode. This is going to be a new segment that I'm doing once a month with some friends, some of my high school friends, maybe some friends that I met and everything through the podcast community. So basically what we're doing is we're reminiscing about stuff that we grew up on, certain cereals that we might have ate back when we were kids, talking about animation, different animated shows, just a fun, small talk, kind of chill, relaxed show. So check that out at the same time at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific Time. And then we have another one coming up on Thursday, which is going to be our Fear Street review. And a matter of fact, it's going to be part of the Fear. I'm actually going to have somebody else that's going to be with me. It's going to be Tamara from Two Blur Girls and also from Fear Street Book Club, who's actually a part of Instagram. So they're going to be on. We're going to be doing a review on all 3 of those films. So go on ahead, check that out at the same time, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific Time. And that's everything that you guys need to know about that. If you guys want to, go on ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button. Also, too, if you guys want to donate to the page, how do you do that? Donate us maybe $5 to $10 here just to keep the lights on here at Movie Lovers Unite. Just go on ahead, go to GoFundMe.com/Movie Lovers Podcast. Of course, if you want an audio only episode of this show and many things that we do here at Movie Lovers Unite, just go on ahead and get that wherever you guys get your podcast from. And for all your intimate needs and wants, just go to movieloversunite.com. And then if you want to follow me on Facebook, follow me at Movie Lovers TV Lovers Unite over there underneath the same brand name on Instagram and on Pinterest as well. And then, of course, you guys can go on ahead, follow me on Twitter as well at Movie Lovers Unit, and also to Movie Lovers Unit on stereo. We do some episodes from time to time on stereo. And then, of course, if you're a sponsor and would love to get in touch with us, just go on ahead, email us at movieloversunite@gmail.com. So with further ado, guys, thank you again for joining us. I can't wait to do this again, and bye-bye.